Hey, we're Tal Mads. For the past 4 years, we've been traveling on and off in this van, exploring new places and experiencing life on the road. But what most people don't see is how van life has seriously tested our relationship. Living in a tiny space, it brings out all the quirks, frustrations, and compromises. Today, we're taking you behind the scenes of how van life challenged us as a couple through the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Okay, hi. So we were recently having a conversation with one of our friends who watches our videos, and she mentioned that she felt like we kind of glazed over selling the van, and we didn't really do a good job at, reflecting on our time with the van, and we just kind of said goodbye.
Yeah, especially because it is the reason we started this channel. It's like everything behind what has made up our time on YouTube and so much of what we've shared with you. So we were like, we totally did just skip over it. We need to give a deep dive in.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if this is selfish. Like, selfishly, we loved going through old footage and putting this together for you, because I highly doubt most of you have watched from the beginning, and it'll just be so fun to kind of put it all together. In this whole journey of getting married, we can't help but be like reflective of our trials and tribulations in our relationship and all the things that we've gone through together that have led us here. And the van is such a huge part of that. So we're gonna go through all of the moments that have strengthened our relationship and all of the moments that have seriously tested us.
Almost broken us up. So we made a little note of some things that we want to touch on. We were watching a whole bunch of our videos together before, because we really do love reliving so much of our time in the van. So we're starting with the things that strengthened our relationship, us as individuals. That's where we're heading first.
So the first thing that came to our mind was something that we never actually shared with you guys. We didn't film any of it, so we probably don't have much to throw back to, but it was like the loudest in our minds of like a really pivotal moment in our journey. And it was on our first drive down to Mexico. We were camped on a beach and
really remote, like away from any service. Like, this was before we had Starlink or anything. We were completely off grid, and something terrifying happened.
I mean, we weren't alone. There were other people on that beach, and that's why this happened. We were playing on the beach with Bowie, and one thing led to another, and another dog, reacted to him in a bad way and latched onto him, bit him, and wouldn't let go. And Bowie was screaming like a human,
and it was around his neck and head area. The dog had latched on, and it lasted. Like, we couldn't get the dog off.
We were wrestling. We jumped onto them. Like, I had like cuts on my knees because I was like, I mean, I didn't think I'd ever be doing this, but I was like trying to hurt this dog. I was like trying to get him off of our dog. And the thing that's the saddest part is this dog was just also scared. Like, I don't think it really realized what was happening. It was probably just playing, and like, but we got scared, and this was a big learning experience for us and how to avoid certain situations. But we were, in the sand, wrestling our dogs, Bowie's screaming. Maddie's view,
I thought Bowie was dead. Like, I actually thought, because the bite was around the neck, I thought, like, we're so far, he's gonna like bleed out or something. Like, my mind was going to the worst places because of the angle of the situation that I had. Talia apparently was seeing it kind of from
I was on the other
angle.
side, but like, hearing his scream and hearing your scream, like, I've just like never heard anything like that.
I can't believe this is where we're starting. This is like, dark, really.
It is. And I mean, we're telling you, and thank God nothing happened. Like, he was okay, well, I guess I'll just continue. We're wrestling. Where I'm from, I could see that he's got mostly his ear. He's like here. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, he probably is gonna bite his ear off. I'm just gonna put as much pressure as I can, and we're gonna book it back to the van. And then it was playing out in my head that we were like 2 hours from any town. But that was I was like, as soon as this dog lets go, we're running. He happened to let go, and like, I move away with Bowie and I'm looking at him and he has like one little scratch on his head. He's very shook, but like he's intact.
It actually felt like a miracle. Like,
Yeah.
I could not believe
Yeah.
that, like, somehow just the way that the dog latched on,
His fur.
like, the jaw didn't close actually as tight as we thought. I think it just, like, closed
he
enough.
sees. That dog just got so scared because we jumped on them.
Yeah.
And, you know, he wasn't trying to hurt him. I genuinely believe he was trying to play and it just got too rough. And then we all freaked out and they freaked out. But immediately we made our way back to the van and Bowie slept. Like, he was in this trauma.
So scared.
But he wasn't shaking or anything. It was so, like, he almost was just like, I need to turn off for 12 hours. And we were so shaken up. Like, I could hear the screams of, like, your screams and his screams. I could hear it. We were like shaking. It was so scary, and really, like, it brought us as a family, like, not even just us, but like the three of us, I could cry right now. It's so scary. But it was so terrifying. Like, I genuinely was like, and I blamed myself immediately. I was like, we shouldn't have come down here. Like, this was stupid.
And yeah, this was like, I don't know if we gave this context in the beginning. I don't think we did, but this was like at the very beginning.
Like day 5 in the van.
Yeah, like we had just moved into the van. We had driven to Mexico as quick as possible. We had crossed the border. This was like our first time, like, on a beach. We were like, what have we gotten ourselves into? Like, was this crazy to like put ourselves in these like risky places? But then we also just like came together and like, honestly, to see the way you reacted, like, I freaked out. I always thought I would be the person to like, fight back and like, I don't know, resolve the situation. And I was like the furthest from that. I was just screaming. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I felt so helpless.
But that is, you have, in other situations, you've reacted by jumping in. I think it was like really the angle. You just got so scared so quick.
Yeah.
But anyway, we came out of that, like, you know, we were so scared of like street dogs after, like, every situation we were like, oh God, how are we going to spend the rest of our time in Mexico, like, not being so terrified? And it really was like our strength in each other and our trust in each other and in how we're going to deal with situations that made me feel good about going forward with that.
Yeah, well, and just how you need to take things from scary, negative situations and figure out how to move forward and learn from it, really. It just opened our eyes to be more aware and to make sure that we're always setting him up for success.
Yeah.
So nothing like that ever happens
and I mean,
again.
before that, like, we were living with our dog in a condo in Toronto, taking him on walks in the same neighborhood. Like, this was our first time traveling with our dog. Like, we learned a lot, and it really made us stronger. Okay. They won't all be this sad.
Before we move on to the next story, I want to tell you about something else that has really been strengthening our relationship recently, and that is HelloFresh. Tonight I'm making one of our favorites. It's a French-inspired lentil salad with herby goat cheese and walnuts. I've been doing a lot of the cooking recently because Talia's shifts go from 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. To be honest, cooking dinner every single night, I get a little sick of it. But thanks to HelloFresh, these nights are easier and more enjoyable. HelloFresh makes it easy by delivering fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and easy step-by-step recipes right to your door each week. The first step to this recipe is pickling shallots. And I love pickled shallots, pickled onions. As you guys know, Talia is basically a genius in the kitchen, which means her expectations for when I'm cooking for her are pretty high. I love that HelloFresh makes whipping up a speedy, home-cooked, Talia-approved dinner doable with their quick and easy options. Get up to 20 meals for free and free shipping on your first order when you go to hellofresh.ca and use code talandmads20. Offer is across 6 boxes for new subscribers only. That's 20 free meals at hellofresh.ca with code talandmads20. Yep, delicious.
Okay, the next thing we want to talk about that we really think strengthened us as a couple was...
As a couple?
Couple.
Yeah,
it's actually a cute word.
Couple.
Is all of the van life first we experienced together things like filling up our water tank, which you would think is such a simple thing, but you know, we were in a town in Baja, and I don't know, I guess we were too scared to like ask in Spanish if they had a hose, and we just kind of assumed that we had to fill it up with these jugs.
We thought that we needed to use like a gravity fill. So we were climbing up onto our bed to be able to use the gravity to pour jugs of water into these hoses, into the tank.
Meanwhile, these locals are
people beside us pulling this hose out, and we're like,
dumb.
oh.
Or like setting up camp for the first time in the Baja wind was like so silly. And like, I just think being humbled in that way together just makes you have this like sense of camaraderie, this feeling of like, you know, we're going through something together.
Yeah, just the idea of experiencing brand new things that were like completely new to both of us. You know, we never camped much before living in the van. We love to travel, but living in the van just came with all of these firsts, and it was so special to go through all of those things together. They made it, the bison! We've been seeing so much poop on the side of the road, thinking, please, they must be close.
Bowie, come, don't ruin this for me.
They're massive.
This is wild. Literally wild. Oh, I just wanted to make sure we didn't forget any first. But yeah, getting stuck in the sand was a funny first experience.
Yeah.
It's just nice that like all of these things that we experienced first, we've done more than once, and then we have these times to compare. You know, things like getting stuck in the sand we did once for the first time. We needed so much help. Then we did it again 2 years later, and we kind of like kicked it into gear. We had our roles. We know how to handle it. We literally were stronger the next time. Or like crossing the Mexican border, we were pretty nervous about. And like, we did it again. We were super chill. We knew what to do. We knew our roles. And yeah, by definition, those experiences made us more equipped to do it again. What a ride.
And it makes me so excited to just keep experiencing new things with you. You know, like we have come so far in like from those little moments. I'm just so excited to like keep doing new things together.
Yeah, it's like you think about, you know, when people say when they first have their first kid, and it's all so new. And you have a second one, and you kind of like, you've got your roles, you know what to do, you know where to go.
So buckle up.
Buckle up, baby.
There was another particular, probably I guess about a week, that felt so special, like romantically for the two of us, and just in our connection and love for one another. So that week came after we had so many visitors come down to Mexico and spend time with us. The first year when we were in the van, we had my parents come. We had a few of Talia's friends come. First, it was one couple, Nikki and Sokol, and then after they left, we had two of Talia's other friends come and visit, and it was all back to back. And we had such a great time showing them all around. We had kind of figured out our roles by then. It was so neat to share all of these experiences with them. And we were just like go in groups of people for so long. And I guess even before that, we were like still traveling with people on the road. And so we hadn't really had a chance to step back, just the two of us. And there was this particular week after everybody had left, and we had just found the most beautiful place to set up camp at, and we really just like took in what life on the road was like for the two of us in this like amazing place.
I'm gonna try and follow the recipe, except I always double the garlic. Because 3 cloves of garlic in pasta, what are you thinking? I'm gonna put at least 6. Ooh. It's kind of a funny segue to our challenges, because, you know, some of our biggest challenges obviously centered around being a couple in a tiny space together, but it really was like the first time that we were actually craving just being the two of us. We had, you know, done this massive road trip, kind of being stir crazy in the car, and then we were with all these people, go, that we really felt like we wanted to, you know, just come together together and spend time just one-on-one. And it made us like value that time more as opposed to other times where we're kind of like, you know, maybe feeling like we're a bit too reliant on each other and spending too much time one-on-one. This was a time that we were like craving that, and it felt good to feel that again.
Yeah, and that I think really just brings us into our challenges, because that was a very special, unique week, because a lot of the time when you're living in such close proximity with your loved one and you're spending every single second together and making every single decision together, it can obviously be taxing on your relationship, on you as an individual. It's stressful, to say the least.
The challenges really start right at the beginning with the van build, because we had been dating just over 2 years when we bought the van and started building it. And
I think we had a really long honeymoon phase, though.
Yeah.
Like, it was 2 years, and we didn't get in one single tiff or disagreement about anything. I remember thinking, like, is it going to be like this forever?
To be fair, we were good friends before. We had traveled together, so we had been in sticky situations together, and we really liked how we dealt with things. But nothing prepared us for what a van build and van life would bring, because the van build consisted of making every single decision together, but decisions on things that neither of us had any clue about. Like, we didn't know about
us.
Neither
we
of us.
were like arguing about these things because one of us would think that we were right about something because of, I don't know, something we read online or just something we thought of. And then we'd be like battling out these like tiny decisions.
Or they would be like creative decisions, which don't have a right or wrong answer. They're just all opinion based. But there's a million of them in a day of a van build, and we did the van build over 9 months. So we really
just like bickered over small things.
It was our first
just,
time.
Like, annoying. Really, it didn't feel great.
It's funny because I remember before that we would see other couples bickering and we're like, let's never be like them. But it's like, you have to go through those things as a couple. Like,
well, and it really, I know it's so cliche, but it did just teach us better communication skills and better patience and having understanding for where
it didn't teach us yet, because there was the van build.
Of course, it wasn't immediate.
Yeah, there was the van build. We were working on it, but then there was the actual van life. And as we've spoken about before, and anyone who lives in a van knows, that you really experience decision fatigue because you have to make a million decisions a day that you don't normally have to make when you have a regular home. Whether it's where you're sleeping, where you're emptying your trash or your water, your poop.
Things that you don't usually need to decide if you're living in a house.
Yeah. And then you're also tack that onto being in a smaller space together. It almost broke us. The other thing to take in was that we are completely different people. And if you watch our channel, you know this about us. I am much more logic based in my decision making, and Maddie,
I'm just a dreamer, really. I just, like, if I have something that I want to do in my brain, I just want to go for it. I don't like to think out all of the steps and logistics to get there. I love to just, like, I don't know, I truly get high on these, like, crazy ideas, and I'm just like, we can do it, we'll get there. And then Talia will be like, but that's actually going to cost us, like, this amount of money, it's going to take this much amount of time. Like, is this realistic?
I mean, we get into these decision-making conversations all the time because we're always spending money and we're always making money-based decisions. It really all comes down to that. And
yes, Talia is a finance girly.
A good example was when we were in Alaska and we were trying to decide if we should do this flight that takes you up to the glaciers of Denali, and it's very expensive. We knew coming into this Alaska trip that there would be expenses. We really were going back and forth because Maddie is like, gung-ho, let's go, let's do it, this is what money's for.
Well, and I think the thing is that we did have our budget and it had already been spent. Like we had done other excursions. It's not like we weren't spending money. We had decided kind of what we were going to do, and we did those things. And the flight was especially expensive. It was like, I don't know, at least $500 US in the moment when we got to Denali and it was this sunny, gorgeous day and we're watching these planes fly overhead, it's like one of the main things to do there is to be able to go up and see these mountain ranges and fly through them. And obviously in my brain, I'm like, well, we gotta do it. Like, I just think about the like current, the now, you know? I'm like, we're here, we gotta do it.
Don't get my hopes up.
Hi there, I just called earlier about the 1:30 flight for 2 people. Is it still available? Talia, Talia.
We're doing it? Are you sure?
Once in a lifetime,
It's a
baby.
once in a lifetime, and it's a blue sky day.
That time, we had already experienced so many of these like arguments over these types of decisions that we did learn, and we made better decisions because of it. We didn't fight about it. There were times like throughout our first trip in Baja that like these arguments would get so deep because Maddie would be scared that I would be this like negative Nancy that didn't want to do anything for our entire relationship, and I was scared that I was gonna have to, make all these money spending decisions that didn't align with who I am and how I want to plan for the future. And it really got like there was one big blow up that we obviously like don't talk about on the channel. Like it was very personal. We barely even tell our close people in real life about it, but it was a pivotal moment for us. Like we really almost thought about breaking up because we're like, do we just not, I'm gonna cry again. Like, what am I being such a baby today? But like we were like, do we just not align well with each other? Is it like, and we had to have a really honest conversation. Like we realized that we do have the same goals, like our values and what we want out of life and how we want to live it are the same. We just think differently, and we just had to realize the beauty in that, and how what makes a good couple, in my opinion, is having the dreamer, the person that's going to set these amazing, sometimes unattainable goals that push you out of your comfort zone and make you, live life in the clouds. But then you also have someone that keeps your feet grounded and makes you able to actually, strive for those goals in a way that like is sustainable.
Living in the van and having so many of these conversations about decisions and things to do just really gave us the opportunity to like practice these conversations and to really just like learn from them, because as Tal was saying in the beginning, like it was pretty frustrating, like for both of us. We felt just like frustrated, and we were never coming out
on the other side.
Like
with an understanding and appreciation.
Until the past little while, we really, I think, have both grown to just like, instead of viewing those things as something negative, we've just like kind of flipped the switch really. And now when I think about Tal and her wanting to save money and think a little bit more carefully and logistically through all of these things, I love it so much. And I've started to think about having kids, and that's something that I like so want in a partner and a parent for our kids, is somebody who is going to think like carefully through things and plan for the future. Like those things are becoming much more important, and I just am starting to love them a lot more.
Anyway, that was like I'd say that's our biggest challenge we've overcome. I don't even know how we got here.
I think in saying all of that, we really were just like learning who we are as individuals also on all of these trips in the van. So of course, when you're learning like new things about yourself and then you're trying to make decisions with somebody else, and you're naturally, things are going to come up.
I think you're right. It took me realizing I actually like that about myself. I like that I'm logical. I like that I plan. I like that I make informed decisions. And then you, on the flip side, had to realize you love that you're a dreamer, that you dream big, and that you live in the moment. I love it.
Like, I realized that even if these dreams in my head don't all come true, I just like, it makes me so happy to have these like crazy goals that some might not be completely realistic. And we've found ways to just like deal with these conversations better. Sometimes I tell Talia, I'm like, when I'm saying these crazy things, sometimes you just need to be like, Yeah, maybe. Like, maybe
It
one
has
day.
saved us.
Instead of like,
I used to take her seriously if she was like, you know what, let's actually like, you know, let's move to an igloo for a year and see if maybe we can, you know, learn how to fish trout. Like, I don't, like, just think of wild ideas. And instead of actually taking her seriously and thinking, okay, well, so I would have to quit my job, and if we actually moved to an igloo, how would Bowie get there? And like, I would be serious and I would plan for it. And now I'll just be like, yeah, sure.
yeah, because maybe, you know, out of my millions and millions of dreams, maybe just a few of them are going to come true, and
Yeah.
we'll have to think those ones through a little
Yeah.
bit. But anyways,
I realized that it is what I love about you. It's what brought us closer, is that we were both wanting to travel and experience new things, but we just go about it differently.
yeah. Okay, what's next?
The next, I think the next big challenge for us was the whole journey to the Alaska border for so many reasons.
When we left for Alaska, our previous trip had been to Baja, and it was such a different experience than what we were about to get ourselves into in Alaska. And I think we almost set ourselves up in the beginning with false expectations.
Yeah.
And because of that, the first little bit was pretty tricky. We were spending so much more time inside of the van, mostly because of the colder weather.
It just fell through the snow. That's how deep it is. It's almost like half of my body. And because the sheer distance was so much farther, we were having so many long driving days.
Yeah, we weren't having as much time to like set up camp in between, because we truly just needed to get from point A to point B, and we were just sleeping wherever was most convenient, whether it was a truck stop or a Walmart or whatever parking lot. And so it was pretty taxing. Like, we were so excited to get back in the van, and we were chasing this feeling that we had felt in Baja when we were camping on these beaches, and we were surfing, and we were in the sun, which is where I think we have learned that we both thrive.
Well, I think, like, okay, we weren't so dumb. Like, we knew it wasn't going to be Baja, but a major thing for us is that we love making friends when we're in the van, and the journey to Alaska was a lot lonelier, so we had to rely more on each other to get that, like, social fix, and that just was taxing on the relationship, because we weren't always in the same mood or always in the same vibe or wanted to do the same things. And as you just heard, like, we were on this journey of becoming our own individuals in our relationship, because we had done so much together and relied so heavily on each other, that trip, I think we really tried to, you know, listen to ourselves and what we needed. Yeah, I think we had just like also just some other firsts. Like, for instance, there was this one day that we also didn't tell you guys about, because it was comical how bad it was. And we're so bad at filming when things are not going right. Like,
it's pretty stressful. Imagine like something happening that is feeling like such a heavy weight, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna pull this camera out.
Yeah.
It feels so unnatural. We are getting better at it, but that is something for sure that we struggle with, like to pull the camera out and show that.
In the situation, you want to deal with the situation, and you forget to bring the camera out. But like, all I want is to debrief it with you guys, and like. And watch it later on. But so anyway, there was this day, and we were crossing the border from Montana into Alberta, and we had already driven however many miles and kilometers from Toronto, and we were already pretty bummed because the weather was not what we expected. It was a cold April, so
it was snowing.
It was still snowing.
We were doing van life in the winter, which we didn't necessarily know we were getting ourselves into.
To be fair, like, everything that we read was April, you'll have nice spring days.
It was minus 15 degrees last night.
You know, all of the beautiful Montana spots we had lined up were closed because it was unseasonably snowy.
It's not looking good. I think we'll have to find somewhere else.
So yes, we're in Montana, everything is closed, and we decide to just make our way to Banff because Maddie's best friend lives in Banff. We thought, okay, let's just regroup there. We decide to drive from Montana to Banff, and on this drive, there's not a lot of stops. Like, if you saw the border into Canada, you would laugh. You almost don't even realize you've crossed a border. It's in the middle of nowhere. There's no rest stops, barely any gas stations. We had just got our composting toilet that we love so much, but we didn't have a chance to really learn how to use it at that point, and we didn't realize that it's not that ideal to use the composting toilet when your bowel movements are, how should I say,
When you have diarrhea.
liquid. And combine there not being a lot of rest stops with really wanting to get somewhere, with having this new toilet situation, we were literally driving in the middle of nowhere, and then one of us would have to, first of all, I don't know why we were having such bad diarrhea. We must have eaten something. But one of us would be driving, the other one would be in the back experiencing a bad experience, and we wanted to keep driving because our gas was running low. We really needed to make it to the next rest stop, and the circulation in the van wasn't great. Like, it was awful, and we were in so much pain. Then we finally make it to a gas station, and we spend the night there, and we realize, like, tomorrow morning we have to empty this toilet. So we wake up super early. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning, but this rest stop is super busy because it's like the only rest stop for miles and miles. So we thought we'd be alone doing this, but apparently not. There's trucks driving by like crazy as we're trying to figure out how to best empty our bin. And as we're wearing gloves, we're trying to wash our hands in our sink from emptying this, and our sink is clogged.
Never a dull moment. Winter van life is, it's no yoke. Now our sink is clogged and it's kind of leaky.
Because it's so cold that there's like water frozen in our pipes. So it was so brutal that we have to like deal with our own mess, and we don't even have a properly working sink.
I don't even like to think about this part.
Well, yeah, because like it was terrible, and it was freezing cold. Like, it was minus 10 degrees, and we didn't have winter stuff because we didn't prepare for this.
I'm trying to think, like, what did we learn from this experience? I'm just not sure, like...
Honestly, just like
sucked.
Overall, yeah, it just sucked. But like, we just practice a lot of patience. I just like am better at dealing with gross things because of the nature of my job. Mm-hmm. Hattie looked at me and she was just like, I'm sorry, like, you're gonna have to take the reins on this one. And like, we really pulled through, and I was like, I'll do this, you do this, like, let's go, boom, boom, boom. Like, we did come out the other side better for it, but barely. So that really tested us. That one was not fun.
Talia loves to talk about toilet stories.
You hate it, eh? Okay, next.
The final challenge that we had in regards to the van is really the decision to say goodbye to the van, because of everything we just spoke about and all of the things that we learned and all of the experiences we shared together. It was obviously such a hard decision to come to decide to sell it and say goodbye. It was really such an end to a chapter, more than a chapter, like the end to a full freaking book.
Yeah.
And still, when we have these conversations and we look back at footage, I'm like, oh my gosh, did we make the right decision? Like, right now I'm like, we should be leaving to go to Mexico soon. Like, what is this winter going to look like? But also, in saying all of that and in reflecting on all of the lessons we learned, I think we know how important it is to start something else new. And I think we both knew that it was time to say goodbye to the van so that we really could begin the next kind of part of our lives together. And we still don't know exactly what that means, but in selling the van, we know that now we have some extra money to go on some international trips that we have really wanted to do. We have now some more money in our savings, so we can hopefully buy that dream house of ours one day.
And eventually start a family. That's going to be expensive as well. And like, not only
then we can get a school bus, right?
I mean,
I have Tally on board actually for a school bus.
I'm
She
half
actually
on
said,
board.
"What?"
yeah.
Here we go.
No, I am, if it makes sense. I do love the idea of traveling with our kids in a school bus because it's cheaper.
Well, and that is also what helped to like solidify that we were making the right choice, because we know it's not the end of our adventures on the road. We know that we will find ways, whether it's renting vehicles in other countries or it's traveling in a school bus with a family one day. Like, we love this way of travel so much for so many reasons that we know it's not the end.
Yeah.
In reflecting on these kind of two categories, we started by going through the things that strengthened our relationship and going through our challenges. We ultimately have realized that both of those things are so closely connected to one another, and it really has been all of the challenges that have contributed to our strengths and vice versa.
Yeah, I think that's so relatable. All of those challenges help to solidify who we are as individuals, maybe as a couple, and we're just so grateful that this van journey gave us so many opportunities to learn more about ourselves and each other and as a couple.
Yeah, and I think in the time when you're going through a challenge, sometimes it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like when we were having these arguments and really like questioning our relationship, ultimately, it was hard to see like exactly how everything was going to work out. But now in retrospect and reflecting, it's really just beautiful to see that like those moments that were the most challenging and trying are why we are so strong and why we are who we are now. So if you feel like you're going through a challenging time at all at the moment, know that it will get better. Keep pushing forward. You will learn from whatever is happening, even though it might be really difficult to see it at the time. And I think that brings us to the end.
So we hope that now, if you resonated with our friend who told us that we just kind of flipped over this chapter of selling Billie, we hope you think that we did it justice and reflected well on our time, because it really changed our lives. And it changed us as a couple for the better.
Yeah. Aw, I'm gonna cry.
So we'll end that chapter. We'll see you next week for another video. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Yeah, and we're so excited to just keep on keeping on.
Yeah. Hope we made you smile.